I think it is. I mean, you know, we've always grown up hearing about the 1900 storm, and, you know, it's almost like it was a great world war, and it makes you think, you know, how would I react if something like that happened to me? Well, you know what? It finally did. And so for all the differences that people may have felt about and how they lived their lives, different from you, different from this man, what that storm did is it equalized us all. It reduced us, you know. I mean, you could use a lot of metaphors. It baptized us together. But what it did is it took Galveston down a number of notches, and we found out what really mattered. Why we liked living here, who our friends were, and as people helped each other recover, it taught us some things about what living is really about. Now, it's our one-time opportunity in our life to change Galveston forever and to set it on a course that it will actually make us proud when we're in our old age. What did we do when we were given the chance to make some amends for Galveston and take it into the future? So that's what we are all about right now. Hurricanes will happen, and you know it's a kind of one of the spices of life. But I will say, you know, to be serious about it, that's why the seawall was built. That's why the island's grade was raised. That's why we insure through a flood program. That's why we raise our homes as need be in the flood zones. And I think our greatest challenge right now is to decide whether that Ike dike is something we're going to do. And I think that would be the 21st century example of what the seawall was back in 1900. What the Ike dike represents to me and to a lot of people is a regional solution, which is a good thing, because for all the talk about Galvestonians sort of, you know, being insular and remaining unto themselves and rejecting the mainland, you know, for decades, the reality is that after this storm we have embraced regionalism. We know that our friends are on the other side of the bridge. You know, we know we are not an island, to coin a term. And so the Ike dike represents a multi-county force that would, that would do something to preserve our, you know, industrial complex in Texas City, our port complex at the Port of Houston, our vital population on this barrier island. You know, any number of things. The University of Texas Medical Branch, which isn't just for Galveston. I mean, it serves the whole offshore industry. It's a level 1 critical care unit. So, you know, the Ike dike is something that excites me because it's not just Galveston, it's the region responding to Mother Nature and trying to control her. We're still getting a little pushback from the state in terms of meeting paperwork and other requirements, which is reasonable, but there is a lingering and growing sense that, hey, you know, can we cut the red tape? So I think the state is doing its best, but the municipalities is where the pain's being felt. And, you know, it's something where every day counts. Can you imagine it's almost 2 years and still being out of your house because you're waiting on aid? And I will say this, the federal government did not pull any punches. They put some money on the table, and I appreciate that, because they said, look, it's important that communities and neighborhoods be repaired and held together because the people have the will to return. They just need the means. I anecdotally can tell you a lot of friends who said, you know, our home is beat up and, you know, we're just going to stay in Austin where we are. You know, that's just one example. People who lost their job at UTMB who didn't have the luxury of waiting around to get rehired. They're in New York, you know, practicing medicine at Columbia University. Likewise, another buddy in Chicago. You know, take people at public housing. Literally, all 569 units of public housing were condemned and razed. Many of them have moved on and won't be coming back. Some of them are living in someone's house here, or perhaps an auntie's house in Texas City, waiting for that public housing to be rebuilt. So you have it all across the board. I'll tell you this, Texas A&M students did a analysis, and they believe that we lost 20% of our population, from roughly 58,000 down to 45,000, 46,000. We know that we have got to affirmatively further fair housing all throughout the state, and certainly Galveston's no exception. The beauty of it is that now with that old 1950s and 60s housing wiped out because it had to go, we have an opportunity to start over and to build public housing with porches and lawns and to create communities rather than projects. And so Galveston has a chance to deal with its poverty really for the first time head on. And that's going to be an opportunity that we cannot lose this time. Every 2 years when the legislature meets, we have to be very careful about how much is it going to cost to live here. All I can say is, the cost of windstorm insurance, flood insurance, the cost of fill, to, put your house at the proper elevation. I mean, these are things that people call the Galveston premium. Well, in reality, there's other regions that have costly insurances too. I say it's worth subsidizing the windstorm insurance because, again, Galveston isn't just, this entity that exists without a reason. I mean, we have an important port, and I will tell you that when Cuba comes online, we're going to play an even more critical role of trade with that country. When the Panama Canal widening is done and the Port of Houston has an opportunity to work with us and partner with us for perhaps another container terminal, that's going to be a trade plus for the state of Texas. The UTMB medical branch, education opportunities at A&M, and just the value of having Galveston, Texas, where every Texan can come to the most beautiful beach on the state.